What's up, everybody? This is Scorch the Fears. I think it's like episode 50 or something like that. We got the great Jerry Norton. I'm really excited to have you on, my man. Like, I know you like basically just met me, but I've been watching you for like the past 3 years. I said this, I think I said this on my Instagram, like story or whatever. You were like my YouTube university mentor, I would say. Like you and Max Maxwell. Um, Basically were the two, I would say. So, yeah, man, thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I already know people are going to be excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Jonah. It's exciting to get to spend some time with you and talk about real estate.
Yeah, man. So I basically started off with the Steve Trang question. Like, how did you get into real estate? Like, how did you start in real estate?
Yeah, so it was a while ago, almost 20 years ago, and I was working pretty much a dead-end job, was married already, had a couple small kids, and had always been looking for something. Wanting to, sorry about that, I lost my light. I've been wanting to do real estate, or let me back up. I've been wanting to start a business. I've been wanting to change my life. I've been looking, but I just didn't quite have the direction. I didn't quite have a mentor. I didn't really grow up around entrepreneurship. And so it was really foreign to me. And so when I learned about this idea around wholesaling, I thought, you know what, this looks like something I could do. Let me give this a shot. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of information. It was kind of this obscure technique. Not very many people were doing it. Not many people knew about it. It certainly wasn't an industry like it is today. Right. And I read this like ebook about it, and pretty much at that time, it was all driving for dollars.
What was the name of the ebook? I'm curious if I could find it.
I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was Steve Cook. He's still a good friend of mine. Okay. I do some charity work with Steve, but he was out of Maryland, and but great guy. And I learned about this idea around wholesaling, and then I went driving for dollars, and I would do it part time. I would do it before my job, after my job. I'd work on it at lunch if I could, on weekends. And for about a year, I kind of part-timed and dabbled. And my goal was, hey, if I could do enough deals to save up equal to my income for a year, then I'll quit and try to do this full time. And that took about a year of like dabbling and part-time in it. And then finally I had, and it wasn't very much. It was like $25,000 or something like that. It wasn't very much.
What were you doing beforehand? What were you doing before real estate?
I was working in underground construction. So it was manual physical labor. I worked for a utility company and basically dug ditches, really. So yeah, it was outside. This is Michigan, so in lots of different weather in the winter.
Oh, freezing, dude. Freezing.
Yeah, it was tough work, but it was kind of all I knew. And so when I found real estate and started doing that part-time, I then was ready to go full-time after about a year. And here's what's exciting, Jonah. My first year full-time, where it was like all I was focusing on, I did 5 wholesale deals and made $52,000 in assignments in my first month.
Whoa, that's crazy. That was your first month?
First month full-time. Yeah.
Okay, and crazy.
And yeah, and what I learned from that was, at the time I was like, man, I wish I would have jumped in full-time, earlier, but I think it was good. It was how it had to happen. That was my journey. I learned a lot part-time in it, doing kind of a deal here, a deal there. And so I was ready. And so when I did go full-time, it was full steam ahead and, guns a-blazing, and I haven't looked back since.
What made the difference? Like, why did you decide to go from part-time to full-time? Was it just you had made a little bit of money in assignment fees, or what was it?
Yeah, it was, I had about $25,000 in part-time in it that I set aside. And my thought was, this is enough to live on for a year. And I got a year to figure out how to do this for real. And, but I figured it out like really fast when I went full time.
I love it. And this is cool because since you're like an educator, you have like your own like mentorship at Flipping Mastery, right? That's the name of it?
Yeah.
Flipping Mastery and all of that stuff. This is just my own curiosity. Like, since you talk to potential real estate investors, current real estate investors, like, what do you think is like the number one thing that is the difference between someone who like makes it happen versus the person who just kind of dabbles and then it's just like, you know what, this isn't for me. I think these people are scamming me or whatever.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because what I see in the education space is a lot of people dabble and they part-time it, and they tell themselves they're in the business, but they're just watching another YouTube video by Jerry, and really what it comes down to, I think, is just a resolute commitment that you're going to do it, and there is no plan B. So when I did go full time, there was no plan B. There was no like, I'm going to fall back on my job, or I got this other backup plan. It was, I'm going to make this work, and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to figure this out. And that allowed me to plow through whatever obstacles came up and, deals that didn't work out. I just was so set on making it work, and I had made that commitment. And so I think people, if they really just make the commitment, like, I'm going all in, then you'll learn what you need to learn. You'll overcome whatever it is that gets in your way, and you'll just plow through, because you firmly decided that you're going to do it.
I love it. What does that mean? What does it mean to firmly decide? What does it mean? Because like, I feel like I'm just like curious, because like, it's interesting. I've talked to different people about like what that really means, or like how to really give a firm commitment. There's obviously like what you did, right? Like, you had some kids, you had like a lot of external influences where you definitely had to do it if you have a kid and a wife. I'm curious just if there's maybe like a way to simulate that, if maybe necessarily like, because some people just have backup plans, like that just life gives them backup plans.
Yeah,
I'm just curious.
I think comfort is the kiss of death, because if you're comfortable, then you don't really have that drive to make a change. The pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain of change, or the pain of change needs to really supersede that. So for me, it was so obvious. I wanted to provide better for my family. I wasn't really stepping up as the provider. My wife was staying home with the kids. I didn't want her working. She didn't want to work. We wanted to raise a family. So that was there. But if you don't have that, you have to create that. You have to artificially create that. It's like, I have kids right now that are growing up very affluent. I make millions of dollars a year flipping houses. And so they don't really know what it means to want and go without.
Right.
So I artificially create that for them. I have to create that.
How do you do that?
I have to tell them, hey, you got to pay for your own stuff. And if you want a car, you got to save up and buy it. And you want to go on this trip, you got to pay for some of it. And I'm charging you if you leave the air conditioning on in your room. And so I have to intentionally create an uncomfortable place so that they'll grow. And I tell you, I interviewed one of my students yesterday, and he's a 22-year-old kid. He did $126,000 assignment on his first deal. Yeah.
Damn, that's wild.
And I said to him, you're 22 years old. You're living in your mom's basement. Do not blow that money. You put that money somewhere else and pretend like you don't have it. Pretend like it's not even there.
Interesting.
Don't spend a dime of it. And he's looking at me like, whoa, okay. I'm like, don't buy a car. Don't do all these things. Act like you're broke again, because it was broke that got you knocking doors. You knock doors because you're broke. Keep knocking doors because no one wants to knock doors, and you're willing to knock doors because you're hungry. Stay hungry. Yeah.
I love it. So, okay. So now I got a couple questions from that, but I'll start just with the one that's in my head. Like, when do you think, because there's eventually a point, right? And I had this conversation with Brent Daniels too, actually. And he said the same. This was his answer. His answer was like, do that basically for 5 years. Like, you should be cold calling for 5 years. You should be like that hungry where it's just you, no VAs, like for 5 years. And for me, I'm like, look, I don't want to do that. Like, personally, like, I do want to try to grow an organization, right? When do you think it's a good idea for like a wholesaler to start hiring and start creating like an operation versus like staying in that hunger mode?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in bootstrapping it, right? Like, work out of your garage for a while before you get offices. And, like, you really want to prove your processes and your systems before you spend money on marketing. The worst thing someone can do is be a newbie and spend 20 grand on marketing and then have the phones ringing and they don't know how to manage the calls. They don't know how to close the sales. That's a terrible idea. So I tell
Right.
people, similar to what Brent said, I tell people, look, you prove it to yourself. You do it on your own and you prove you can do it and you feel success and you prove out your scripts, you prove out your marketing, you do it without spending money. Like I'm a big believer in zero cost marketing to begin with, even if you have a budget.
Right.
Because when you can close deals where you haven't spent money on leads and marketing, then when you are ready to start spending money, you're going to be in a good place because you figured out how to do deals without money. You're going to do really well when you have money to spend on
Right.
marketing. So definitely agree with that idea. 5 years feels really probably excessive. Like I think it shouldn't be a time frame. It should be when you're ready. As soon as you
Right.
feel like, hey, I really have. Now we get lazy and we want a shortcut to results. And that's Brent's point. Brent's point is don't shortcut to results, right? Because you cannot start bringing on a team. You can't start investing in data and all these different things until you can manage it effectively.
I gotcha. And then this is just another question that I'm curious about. Like, what do you recommend as like the first, like, how would I say it? I guess marketing method, right? Is it, would you rather you tell people door knocking, cold calling? I can already tell you not direct mail. Is it, I've seen you call agents before too. Like, is it agents? Like, what do you like? What do you like people to start out with?
Yeah, my number one free zero cost marketing is definitely on market with real estate agents. So I go
Right.
directly to the listing agent, offer that listing agent to represent you as the buyer's agent. They're going to get both sides of the mission. They're going to be highly motivated with you. They're going to talk about their future deals. It still to this day is our number one source of deals is on market. It doesn't cost us anything. So I'm a big believer in that. There's a whole bunch of free. You've got time, energy, and effort to invest, not money. Driving for dollars and door knocking are fantastic strategies. It's manual, it's time consuming, extremely. If it's not, you can't grow a business doing that. But it's a great way initially if you've got more time than you do money, and it forces you to learn sales. When you're knocking doors, you're forced to learn sales because you're face to face now with people. So I like that. One of my techniques that I've always dealt with is tired landlords. And what we do is I teach a really cool technique where we just go on Craigslist and we call for rent. So these are mom and pops on Craigslist that have property for rent. And we call the rental and we say, hey, I'm not calling as a tenant. I'm actually calling to see if you're interested in selling your property. It's the perfect time because it's vacant. So they've got the pain of vacancy. And a lot of times they'll say, well, no, I don't want to sell that one, but I got this other property that can stay. And so it's free. It's just calling on listings on Craigslist. Things like that are very manual, but can be very effective. Somebody that's got no money should never have a shortage of opportunities to be calling and making offers on properties for free. There's tons of free stuff to do.
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm like curious in the sense too, like what like okay, because this is just the thing that I've noticed, like because some people ask me for advice of like what to do, right? And like I'm curious what you think about this in the sense of like I feel like, at least my opinion is, you have to know yourself as to whether you start with whichever one of those options, right? Like in the sense of I'm all agents. I try to make agent relationships and get pocket listings. I'll do on market sometimes, but I really like just trying to make the relationship with the agent. And I'm curious about your opinion, like, because I think some people get overwhelmed with all the things they can do. And I bet you've noticed like someone will cold call for 2 months, like this isn't working. I'm going to try door knocking for a month. So what do you think? Is it just choose one? Is it like do a self audit?
So great question. So my belief is what tends to happen is people get spread out between multiple marketing strategies. And then what ends up happening is they don't do any one strategy very good. So what I believe is go vertical, right? Go deep on one. And I don't care if it's direct mail, texting, cold calling, on market. It really doesn't matter. They all work, right? It just matters what resonates with you? Are you ready to put the right budget in place if it's a spending strategy? And go deep, like really learn it well, really do it well. And then test track. And then when you feel like you've got that strategy really dialed in and working, now maybe open another vertical. Maybe now try texting, or now, some other method. But for me anyway, after going agents on market, the next, I think, most effective strategy is cold calling, because you can get cold callers for very inexpensively to screen those leads and bring the warm leads forward. And then you or a sales manager can then take those leads. And it's a very cost-effective way to scale, because again, cold callers are very inexpensive, and you can buy a list, have the cold callers call it, warm leads come to you, and now you're on the phone closing, not on the phone cold calling. That's not a good use of time.
Right.
But that's a very effective strategy as well.
I love it. So, okay, let's keep going with your story. So you do, what was it you say, 56K in your first full-time month?
Yeah,
right?
52,000 my first month full time. Yeah.
Okay. That's super rare, right? Like that's very rare. Like I don't think I know anyone who's made that much in their first month, even full-time. I mean, how many months were you doing it before part-time, I guess?
About a year, but I'd only done about maybe five deals total at that point.
Right. Okay, cool. So just keep going. Like, what's the rest of your story? How did you keep developing in the next parts of your journey?
Yeah, so this is Metro Detroit, and these were super low income properties. And so like a lot of these houses I was buying for $5,000 and selling for $5,000, right? So
Okay.
So I was targeting super low end markets. I was wholesaling to slumlords and low income, and investors, mostly buy and hold. And what started happening in Metro Detroit is out-of-staters started to come in and buy in Detroit because the pricing was so cheap. And when the market corrected, Detroit took a big hit. And all of a sudden, California money's coming and overseas money is coming. And so I started to wholesale to these out-of-state investors. The problem is they were having a hard time getting their properties rented, renovated. And so then they couldn't buy another house from me until they fixed up the last one they bought from me. So by default, I started to do rehabs, not because I wanted to, I was just wholesaling, but to speed up the process of wholesaling, I started to renovate to help my buyers with their problems, right? Because they were long distance.
What was your journey? Like how many years were you wholesaling and then you started rehabbing?
I didn't touch a rehab probably till about 2 years in. So okay. I started in 04, and about 06 was when the Detroit market started to really take a hit.
Okay.
And so then I wholesaled, I turnkeyed, so I would fix it up. And then I got the idea, well, why don't I just put a tenant in it, buy it, renovate it, put a tenant in. And so I started selling turnkey rentals, same buyers. And at the time they could get financing. So they would refinance, buy another one, refinance, buy another one. And I'd sell one guy 5-10 houses. And so I had quite a process going by then. I was doing maybe 80 turnkey rentals a year. So I'd have crews, and I just kind of kept going with the business. Well, when 07 happened, and then 2008 and the fallout with real estate, the buyers dried up because they couldn't get financing anymore. And so then I shifted to retail. So I stopped doing low income turnkey. And I still wholesaling the whole time, but I started to do fix and flip in the first time buyer. So, around $150,000, $200,000 price point. And it was tough. I mean, I would fix and flip then, still wholesale and fix and flip. And I'd go through maybe 3 buyers before one could get a loan because financing was so hard then. It was really tough times. I had no problem getting buyers. I had a problem with the buyers getting financing.
Interesting. Okay.
And so my goal all along was to continue to progress. My goal has always been, how do I grow and develop as an investor? And for me, what happened is I'm doing these entry-level flips, and I get a call from one of my agents, and he says, Jerry, I got this deal for you. It's a great deal, but it's in this neighborhood that's a lot nicer. And it was like a $375,000 house. And I'd never done something that nice. I was sticking around the mid 100s. Okay. So it was really out of my comfort zone at the time. So I do this deal, And it was in a nicer area, bigger house, but I basically used the same contractor, same cabinet, same granite, same floor, same everything, just a nicer area. And I did this deal and I flipped it and I made 75,000 on the flip. And on my other flips, I was making about 25,000. So I tripled my profit on basically the same amount of effort. And I sat back and I had this aha moment and I said, wow, 3 times the profit, same amount of work.
Right.
And the light bulb went off and I said, I've got to go more margin, less volume. I got to go higher price point. And that moment was transformational for me because I started to focus on higher price points. And it took a while, but I pushed myself into the 500, 600,000 ARV neighborhoods. And then it took me a little while and I got to 1 million. So I'm flipping now at $1 million houses. And that was really scary at the time. I was really out of my comfort zone. And I played around at $1 million for a while, doing deals around $1 million. And then I'm like, okay, what's next? So I wanted to push into 3 million. And to do that, I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, because Scottsdale, Arizona has a market for $3 to $5 million homes.
Right.
So I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I start doing now 3 million and 4 million and 5 million. Really scary, really out of my comfort zone. First house I did 3 million, I lost money. I think I lost a couple $100,000. Second one, I broke even. Third one, I sold for 5 million and made $1.2 million profit on the deal.
God damn, dude. That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. Like, do you think it's mainly like what made you confident enough to just keep going up and up and up? Was it the fact that you were, was it just trusting yourself basically? Like the difference between the price range and
Say that again.
Sorry. So like the difference was it mindset that was keeping you back initially?
All
mindset.
Like it was, yeah. I mean, it definitely was a different skill set because as you go up in price, it's more luxury. So you're spending more money, right. Nicer client, everything's nicer, more zeros, more capital, but 20%, 80% of it was all mindset, was all overcoming my limiting beliefs, thinking bigger, thinking, abundance. It was more of that than anything, just mindset.
Okay. Gotcha. And then, I mean, like for me, I'm not going to lie. Like when I hear it would hurt, like for instance, I mean, like it must have also been, you got like a pretty good cash flow to feel comfortable with it. Because if I lost a couple 100,000 right now, I would be not happy about it. Right. Like I would be very, very stressed. So was it kind of, you also built up the cash reserve? So like if something like that happens, you feel like, okay, it's not like the end of the world. Like, is that like, I'm curious, like,
for sure. I mean, it didn't feel good to lose 200,000 no matter how much money you make. Yeah. But yeah, I had lots of deals going on. To this day, I still flip in Metro Detroit, regular homes, and I still wholesale a lot. So I've got a lot of what I call bread and butter deals that I do that aren't the big margin deals, but the big margin deals are where I make the bulk of my money in the business because, $1 million. And so I try to do 3 to 6 million plus deals a year. I've got one right now for sale. Again, this will be a $2 million profit if I hit my number. 2 million net profit on this. And so, those are big deals. I've got one working on in Puerto Rico where it should be higher than that. I'm going to try to sell it for 6 million and I should be all in for on an oceanfront lot right by my house here. So I'm constantly thinking about what's the next level. For me, I've stayed residential. You could go commercial, you could go multifamily, you could keep doing things. My point is I don't ever want to just be a wholesaler, just be a rehabber, just be a landlord. I want to be an opportunist. I'm more of an investor that looks for the biggest bang for my buck. What do I need to do to continually make more money while working less, right? I want to leverage my ability, my skill set. And again, I'm a margin guy. I like margin.
Okay. I like it. So then how do you choose, right? Because like for me, I feel like this is just because I just find it interesting. My personal philosophy is, at least for now, I like sticking to wholesaling because I like the going vertical thing, like just being like, just focus on what's working right now, maybe do flipping later, but it's also going to be, realize that's also a distraction that might end up being at least at the beginning, what's it called? What do they call it when you start getting distracted? I'm forgetting the word for it. There's like
Shiny object syndrome.
shiny object syndrome. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like how do you decide? Because in theory, wouldn't flipping everything always be the most profitable way? Isn't there, or is there like a balance between how much work you're doing?
So here's the thing. Wholesaling typically is a stepping stone into other things. Some
Right.
people make it a full-time, all they ever do, and that's okay. But I know very few wholesalers that take home over $1 million a year. I know very few. Because what happens is to scale wholesaling, you also scale overhead. And very few wholesalers can scale effectively at a pace and at a rate where they still take home and do very well financially.
Gotcha.
They end up getting bigger offices, bigger teams, and at some point, most wholesalers transition into other things. Now, they may keep wholesaling like me. I keep wholesaling because what I do is I look for home run deals I can flip, and everything that's a single, double, triple, I wholesale.
Gotcha. Okay, I get what you mean.
Because I'm not going to say no, because I know there's another investor that will take that deal and they're okay to make skinny margins. I'm not.
Right.
So that's why we wholesale. I don't actually have a business that just wholesales for the sake of wholesaling. It's our plan B. We first look for ideal flips and then we wholesale the scraps. And it works. It works very well. But that allows me to keep a very overhead, very low cost, low marketing budget wholesaling business. I run a very high margin wholesaling business. Like if you look at my wholesaling deals that we do, we're not spending, $5,000 and $10,000 per contract like a lot of full-time big wholesalers do. Like they're spending a lot of money, and then they got commissions on their sales team. They got dispo people, they got setters, and they got lead managers and all these things, which is how you scale a wholesaling business. But again, I can count on one hand. That means at some point, Jonah, what it means you're going to start to think about how to leverage your deals better. Because think about it. You get this great deal, Jonah, and you're like, man, I'll sell this deal for $20,000.
I might be losing you, Jerry.
Did we cut out?
You cut out for a lot of that. I got like something about one hand, and then
Jonah, we cut out.
We're good now. Like we keep going. Like for a moment, you're like full HD, and then for another moment, you're like a little bit. You're like completely gone. It's like going back and forth between like we're good and we're not good. But we got time. We can do some technical issues. It happens. He's gonna probably come back, and then he's gonna come back, and we're gonna test out some internet issues, guys. But I want to say thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm gonna keep you guys informed. I got this new camera, so like it's gonna be cool. What's up, my man?
Sorry, Jonah.
No, it's okay. Just say it again. Like you got something about like you can count on one hand, or like.
Yeah, what I was saying is, here's what happens with wholesaling. You do all the work to get this great deal. And what you're saying is hey, I'm okay to take a sliver of the pie and pass that off to someone else who's going to do the value add, and they're going to make the lion's share of the profit. That's fine. And a lot of people make the argument, well, yeah, but I'm not doing the effort and the work and the capital to do something with that deal. But there's going to come a point in time where you're probably going to look at your deal and you're going to go, man, I want to keep all the meat on the bone, not just a little piece of the meat of the bone. And so if it's not right now, great. Like that's totally cool. For me, it wasn't that way. For a lot of people, it's not that way. Make a bunch of money. wholesale like crazy. I got it. Like, do it. But I bet you we'll have a conversation sometime in the future, and you'll say to me, Jerry, I'm transitioning into this and into that, and I'm starting to keep 1 out of 10 wholesales and building a rental portfolio.
I'm doing that. I am doing that, actually. I am holding a few of my,
Okay.
not the whole,
So see,
but I'm keeping a few of other.
Wholesaling's a great entry into the game, but it's a stepping stone into much bigger things if you allow it to be.
Right. No, I got you. I definitely understand the holding it. And like, it seems like I'll keep like ones that are like no rehab, basically. Like it's just like it's already rentable. Like it's because it's just easy for me. It was like maybe a paint job or something. Right. So what do you think? So this is like interesting. So like, what do you think? Because we're obviously kind of turning market wise right now, right? So do you think it's a good time for flipping specifically? Like I always think like when the market's going down, being a flipper kind of sucks in comparison to when it's going up, right? Like the past 2 years, it was easy
I've been
money.
talking about this. Yeah, I've been talking about this because yes, I still think now is a good time to flip for a couple of reasons.
Jerry, I'm losing you again. No.
Looking at days on market, I'm budgeting for the rehab.
Rat. Jerry, I'm losing you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh.
I got you now. You're back.
Okay. Yeah.
Say that again.
What I was saying is I'm doubling down and actually buying more right now to flip because I'm getting steeper discounts because now I can get better deals. Sellers are more motivated. And so all it means now is I'm adjusting my back end numbers and I'm just buying deeper. So, if I was flipping here, now I'm flipping here. And if I was buying here, now I'm buying here. So I've just reset. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you know how much to reset? Because this is interesting to me in the sense of like, especially right when it happened, like June-ish, like at the beginning of June, like it was interesting. Like because I like immediately started talking to my buyers being like, what are you thinking? Some people were like, now I need a 20% discount, or like, you can only use things from a year ago, or like they kind of just went crazy for a little bit, right? Where I'm like, okay, nobody knows what the hell is going on, right? So I'm just curious because in those situations, like, what do you do? I mean, it seems like you have a process now that it's almost stably going down, it seems like to a point where people are kind of like, okay, it seems it'll be 10% less than whatever it sells for today or something like that. That's what it seems like to me. But how do you determine that?
So basically what we're doing is we're looking at actives more than solds because solds don't really mean anything anymore. And I want to see is there a flip right now on the market? What's it priced at and how long has it been sitting? So if it's been sitting and it's not pending and it's been sitting for 30 days, 60 days, clearly the price they're at is not the price anymore. Right. So now I'm gonna discount my ARV 20% off of where they're listed and not selling.
Okay. What if there are none? What if there are what if there's it's one of those areas where there have been flips, but let's just say right now there just doesn't happen to be one.
Then if I don't have data that I feel good about, I just go really low. I mean, I just have to be super conservative. So I'll walk from a deal. I mean, I'd rather no data is this. Bad data is the same as no data, right? Like if I can't comp it and feel good about the back end, then I'm not going to do it.
Gotcha. But you're only comping with like currently actives. Do you use maybe like within the month? I'm just curious because it's interesting.
Yeah. So I'll look at 3 months of solds as a baseline.
Right.
And then I'll compare that to what's on the market right now and what's the difference.
Gotcha.
Right? So, but I'm not giving a lot of value to the solds because that's not the market anymore.
Right. Right. No, it totally makes sense. So, okay, I'm gonna go back to your story. You start flipping in Detroit. You move to Arizona so that you can do even more luxury flips. And I know that's kind of like I feel like you can tell me if I'm wrong. That's kind of your calling card is like luxury flips now. Like that's at least what I feel like you're like.
Well,
I've heard.
I mean, it's interesting because it's the thing I talk about the least
Hmm.
because nobody cares because it feels like unattainable.
Okay.
So I talk mostly about my normal deals and wholesales and regular fix and flips that I do. But like I said, the majority of the money I make on luxury doesn't even come close to the other deals, like normal size deals, because there's so much margin in luxury. So that's just why I love luxury, and I'll always do luxury because there's so much profit in those deals.
I love it. And then, so developing your story more. So then you were doing luxury flips, and then did you start doing any buy and holds? Like, do you own just single family
No,
rentals?
no, I mean I've got some, yeah, but it's not really a main strategy is to buy and hold. And at some point, maybe that'll change. I moved to Puerto Rico for the tax incentives, and there's a lot of opportunity here for Airbnb, and so I might. I'm looking at buying a hotel right now, so I might start to get into some buy and hold and some long-term assets. But I've been very careful not to fall victim of the shiny object syndrome. So
Right.
I've stayed in my lane. I've really focused on being a really good wholesaler and flipper. And asset management is a whole different animal from flipping. And so if you want to be a really good flipper and you're also doing asset management, meaning long-term properties, you've got to set aside bandwidth to focus on those assets. Some people are really good at managing assets and some people aren't. I'm not really that great at it. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I don't like tenants. It just doesn't resonate with me. I don't find it very enjoyable. I see the numbers and I see the value in it. I get it. And the benefits of it. I get it. But I just love flipping. I love being in a project and being out of the project and onto a new project. I just have like really short attention span and like ADD. So flipping's amazing because it's like I'm done, on to something else.
Interesting. So I'm just curious because, like, at least because, and I want you to dispel myths for me, like convince me to flip right now, basically. Like with even my one flip, it was super easy. It was pretty simple and it ended up going fine. I think it was like only 10K above budget or something, like whatever, right? But even for me, I mean, it felt more annoying to have to keep on contractors, right? And like organizing them and like getting them to do everything right. And like having like the stress of your capital in it versus like a wholesale deal where it's like get the contract, find somebody, boom, really go on to the next one. So, I mean, what do you think of like this? Is like the stresses of contractors just different to you than tenants, or I don't know, like
Yeah, because I mean I'm in and I'm out in 30 days and we move on, right?
right?
Whereas a tenant is like I got to deal with this tenant for a year,
Whatever. Makes sense.
and then another tenant for a year. And so, yeah, I mean, it's not all sunshine and roses. Flipping is hard. You got to deal with contractors. That's been really tough. You got to take on stress of carrying capital on deals. That's stressful. So there's definitely stress to it. But as far as I want to make more money and more money and more money, flipping allows you to scale your income, I think, much faster than wholesaling does for a lot
Makes
less
sense.
stress. Because again, I can make on one deal what a wholesaler with a 20-person team and offices and deals everywhere and all this going on, like that to me, that's like a rat race. That's a hamster wheel is a big wholesaling operation. Whereas I don't. I'm virtual. I got some GCs on projects, handful of contractors in my main markets. So I've learned how to manage it really well. But again, that's my wheelhouse. Somebody else might say, well, look, I got 200 doors and I manage it really effectively. So it's just
Right.
what resonates. There's none of this is right or wrong. It's just what fits for you really well, and then stay in your lane. So I had
Right.
like at one point I had like 25 rentals. I hated it and I sold all of them.
Okay.
I just didn't like it. So that was me. I just really love flipping. Some people might say, I hate flipping. I hate contractors. I hate raising money. I just want to wholesale forever. Okay, go for it.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. No, I like it a lot. So, what's next for you? Like, what's the next goal? You mentioned you want to own a hotel. Is like that the next thing where it's like Airbnbs? Is it just doing more flipping? Like, where is Jerry Norton going? Is it like getting more people in the mentorship, or because you haven't done that
Well,
yet?
I mean, I have my mentoring programs and my software and I have all of that just keeps going. As far as real estate, for me, my end game, my dream transition is to become a hard money lender. Uh,
Hmm.
I think the smartest person in our business is the lending side, the guy on the with the money. Um,
Interesting.
they're the ones that do the least amount of work for the money in the whole transaction because they're not working, the money's working.
Right.
And so I do a little bit of that. We have a transactional funding company for double closings, so we're already doing that. But yeah, I'd love to. I'm working on it. So at some point in the near future, I'll have a hard money lending fund, and that's my passive income strategy. Not rentals, probably, but more lending side.
I like it. So, and the reason is just because it's less work. Basically, that's like the main goal is because
The
that's way
reason
less
why is
work.
because I love underwriting, I love structuring, I love being a part of a deal. But as I move from active to passive, I don't need to be the one that's operating the deal. I can be the lender. So
Okay.
it allows me to stay in the game, stay in the deal, but I'm a lien holder and I'm lending money on the deal, not the one managing the deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it
So
totally makes sense.
passive. So it allows me to be passive, but still in the game.
No, I love it. And then what do you, I'm just curious because I didn't even, like, my head hasn't even gone there yet that like that would be the end goal for somebody. Cause like I was thinking like usually what I think of is like, oh yeah, you own a bunch of properties and then whenever the hell you decide you want to stop is like whenever you got your stuff covered. But it's interesting to
Yeah.
think about being a lender because that's even less work than managing tenants and all of that.
Oh
But
yeah.
but like I'm curious, like what do you have to do to become a hard money lender? That almost makes me like I know nothing about that really. Like what are the requirements?
Um,
Do you have like 50 mil in the bank or something, or what? How does that work? I'm
well,
just
so the way hard money lenders work is they raise money at 6% and then they lend it out at 12% plus points and make the spread. Right.
right,
But let's say I had my own money. Let's say I put a $10 million fund together and it's my cash. Well, $10
right,
million at 12% annually is 1.2 million in interest. Plus, if you charge 2 points twice a year, that's another 400,000 in points. That's 1.6 million on your 10 million cash.
right,
So you can get those kinds of returns in commercial or multifamily. So it's just another way to earn passive income.
right,
But I can lend 10 million to three guys, like three
right,
flippers that are active, and there's no overhead. I got no risk. I'm a lien holder. I lend right because I underwrite my own deals. It's just for me, that's going to be the place I go.
I love it. Cool. So how'd you end up mentoring people? How'd you end up starting Flipping Mastery? Like, tell me the story behind that.
Yeah, so I started out as an educator for a big real estate training company they're not around anymore. They were called New Varish. I don't know if this was way back when they called it school, but I was selling properties to a lot of their students that are in their program or their school, I guess. And then they asked me to substitute teach their class on wholesaling and fix and flip. And they gave me the slides of the instructor, and I said, I'll teach your class, but I'm not using this. And
Yeah.
they said, okay, write your own curriculum. So I did, and then they offered me a job right on the spot. So once a month, I would go down and I would teach an all-day class on wholesaling, an all-day class on fix and flip, and then I started to teach an all-day class on raising capital because I was raising a lot of money for deals. And I was an instructor for them for a couple of years. Then they started doing what they called ground schools, and then I would do 3-day boot camps in Detroit where I was doing a lot of deals. They'd put a big group together. They'd fly those people out, and for 3 days I would show them, here's how I'm doing my deals. I take them to my properties, and so I got really good at teaching because at the end of every class they would they would do these evaluations, and they were really sticklers on it. Everybody had to fill out a critique. And so I got tons of feedback. And so I would fix my presentation. I would fix the way I was teaching. And I became a really good teacher. And then that company, they went out of business eventually. And so I stopped working for them, and they paid me really well, so it was great little like side gig. And again, I was just go down there once a month, teach for a couple of days, and then I'd keep doing my business. Well, having done that, I put together a really good curriculum. So then I started to, when I went on my own, I said, you know what, people want this information. So I put together that material that I was teaching, and I started to sell it as like home study course, training program. I'm writing a book, but I didn't want to travel. At the time, people would travel. They'd speak on stages and like RIA clubs and all of that. I had a family, so I didn't want to do that. So I figured out how to put together like a webinar. And so I did that for a little while. Well, eventually I found that a lot of the people that I were training were actually finding and bringing me deals. So they would be like, hey, Jerry, I got this great deal. Do you want it? And I'm like, yeah, I want it. Yeah, I want it. Yeah, I want it. Because at the time I went virtual. So I started doing deals kind of all over. I did a year-long RV trip and left Detroit, traveled with my family for a year in an RV full time. Nice. And learned how to start doing deals virtually during that time. And I had to figure out a way to manage like all these different deals coming in. So we put together a program where it was basically a finder program where now I pay people $10,000 to find deals for me. And they go through a training. I give them all the tools. I teach them how to find the deals, the paperwork, all of it. And then I have a portal system we created where they submit the deals to me. And we call it 10K Club, but I have a lot of people in that program. And it allowed me to organize and streamline the process of people bringing me deals.
So what got you started in, like, I know you started with that company, but like, why'd you even do those classes in the first place? Was there just any reason where you're like, oh yeah, it would be cool to teach? Or was there like, I'm just curious.
It was fun to teach because, I mean, I was teaching in a room of 200, 300 people.
Oh, damn. That's a lot of people.
It was a huge room. Yeah, it was a huge room. And I would teach. And again, they were buying deals from me. So I was selling my deals to all these. So it was great exposure. It was just awesome exposure.
Gotcha.
I mean, they paid me, so it was fun to get paid for it. But the main thing was I was selling them deals. Because at the time when I first started doing that, I had turnkey properties. And they would buy them all. Like I could not keep up with them buying them. So they were just awesome buyers.
Right.
Yeah. Because I tell them, hey, I got a house fully rented or fully renovated with a tenant paying $800 a month, and they'd buy them. So it was awesome.
Right. That's cool. So this is just my curious question because it's interesting in the sense that like I'm part of Sub 2 and Astro Flipping. You know them, Jamil and Pacey's program.
Yeah, great guys. Love those guys.
Amazing guys. And I was curious because like some of my colleagues in those programs, they're kind of like me. They've been getting some level of success, right? Some more than me, some less than me. And then some of them are like starting to do coaching. And like, it's interesting to me. And this might be my own mindset thing of being like, I don't know, like, I don't know if I really want to charge someone for like teaching them yet. Like maybe I'm not like, even if I am making money, like, am I actually able to do this? So I would ask two questions. One is, when do you think, if somebody was interested in that, when do you think they would start something like coaching or something like that? And then also, let's start with that one, actually. Let's just start with that.
Yeah. So what happens is most people, once they figure out how to do wholesaling and they figure out how to do flipping, and they see these other people like Brent Daniels and Jamil and Pace and Jerry Norton's, they think, man, those guys are making a killing in the coaching business. And so it's the grass is greener idea. And then they quickly find out that it's like any other business. It's a lot of work. There's overhead, there's marketing, it's everything. So very few people actually figure out how to do that effectively and do it well. I'm fortunate because my training business, we have it so dialed in. I'm really good at it, and it's streamlined. So a lot of it is all automated. and I built really amazing funnels. I have an email list of 1.3 million people. And so that's all taken 12 years of learning and doing basically internet marketing and online marketing and learning funnels and all of that. I got a great partner that runs the whole business for me. So it allows me to just keep doing real estate mostly. Other than my high level, I have a high level mentoring program where I do work with people in small group settings. But for the most part, I've built this really amazing automated business. And most of it is around my software. So we have a software that's wholesalers and flippers, and my Finder programs. So I have some Finder programs. And again, all of that just feeds back into my real estate business. So that's why I do it.
Right.
I love giving back. I love teaching. I love teaching. I really enjoy that. So I have a lot of fun with that. But the YouTube channel, I'm mostly just showing what I'm doing and my deals and how I do them. Like that's what I'm doing, is just showing my journey.
Right. I gotcha. And then this was also like, I'm very curious because obviously you are, I feel like you and Maximo might be like tied or neck and neck as the biggest YouTube channels for wholesaling and flipping. I don't know if they're at least wholesaling, for sure wholesaling. I don't know if there's more with flipping and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But two things. One is because like that's kind of like that's what I'm doing here, right? Like I'm trying to start building brands, start growing my YouTube channel, start growing social media. What is like, because this is just something I've been thinking about, like what is the difference? I feel like there's a difference, maybe there isn't a difference between kind of just making content or just plopping out content versus like brand building. Do you think there's a difference? And if so, like how do you change it? Or am I going out? Are you going out?
Oh, you cut out for a second there, but I think you were asking around content versus branding.
Yes. Like what is the difference to you? And like, how do you switch more to branding?
Well, I mean, if you follow my content, I don't do anything. I don't put out any content that doesn't have a very specific purpose. And that's a ton of free stuff. You opt in for it. You get on my email list. We then offer things to you that might be helpful to you. We invite you to my software. We invite you to check out my Finder program. So I don't create content for the likes, for the followers. I don't do YouTube for the income that it pays me, even though it pays me, $35,000 a month in ad revenue, or any of that. I could care less about any of that. It's very specific, my strategy for why we the content. Now, this is really interesting. You're asking me this because I never talk about any of this because everyone just wants to talk about real estate. But but that's me. That's me personally. And other than this past year, because my wife's at a point where she can come with me, I don't travel. I don't speak on stages. I don't get out there much because I build an online business and I focus on my real estate deals. Content I put out is very specific, help people progress through their journey, then get into my program. They're going to help them be successful. And I know my programs work if they do the work. If they do the work, my stuff works. So I just kind of stay in my lane, but I'm a little unique and different. You might be asking the wrong person because I've never really just done something like a podcast or done something like a YouTube channel or Instagram or anything for the sake of branding or for the sake of, hey, I just want to get there. I want to be recognized. I want to ad revenue or I want to get followers. No, me.
Sorry, say that last part again, because that was the key component. You don't do it for likes and all of that. What do you do?
Yeah. So for example, I'll give you an example. If I put out a YouTube video and in my YouTube video, I give away some free scripts, right? If it 100 views on that video and 100 people opt in for my scripts, I'd rather have 100 views and 100 opt-ins than 1 million views on YouTube and no opt-ins.
Right.
I don't care about that.
Gotcha.
I don't care about servers. I don't care about views. I care about getting my message to the person that I can help. That's going to use my resources, use my tools, maybe join my software, maybe join my mentoring. That's why I put out content.
So it's more to funnel
of
into your mentorships. It's more to funnel into your mentorships and like the other stuff that you're doing, right? So that you do more real estate with them. You're actually able to help them like one-on-one or like in the courses. And is the reason for that is you kind of believe like that's really how you're like the best way to get it done is through like coaching and mentorship? Is that kind of the idea?
Well, I mean, the side benefit is my so good that just watch my YouTube video. Happy for that. So it's not just that, right? Like I recognize no one's going to do my mentoring program. Sharing with them for free is really valuable. So students that are the most successful have probably consumed my content and already are doing deals before they even join my programs.
Right.
So you don't have to, like you could just consume my content and not get any of my programs and still make a lot of money, do really well.
Right.
But I believe the more comes back.
Say that again. You cut out.
I just believe the more that I give, the more come back.
Right. I got you.
And I don't sell. I don't sell. I'm not holding back. I don't.
Jerry, I'm really losing you right now. The Puerto Rico internet is not doing good.
I could hold on. Let me see if I can. This might be risky here. Hold on.
Go for it.
I'm going to try to switch to a different internet.
We'll try it out.
How's that?
Not much better. I think it's I think it might be worse.
Let me put it back. I have Starlink, and it's been working awesome. So I don't know why it's not working good. How's that? Better?
Good enough. Good enough. I can hear you now. Like good enough to do it. So I'm gonna try to have you say that answer again. So talking about you like the side benefit is people can just 100% do it just with your YouTube content. But for you, you are very intentional with what you're giving out, like scripts, like different strategies to get them on your email list so that then you're able to kind of either promote the mentorship, the 10K giveaway, or anything else you're doing. Just to summarize.
Yeah. So today in 2022 and in the foreseeable future, before people are going to invest in mentoring and anything you have to offer, before they're going to want to learn from you or they money with you, they have to really believe you. They have to really resonate with you. They have to find a connection to you, and allows you to so that's why we do it. It allows me a platform like YouTube's our number one platform. It allows me to really share and showcase and teach what it is.
Yeah, I'm really losing you.
Shoot.
Darn. Do you have, I'm just curious because like you like almost put up a thing like near your computer, it seems like, where then it went really like HD. I don't know if like you moved something around, but you moved something around earlier where it went up. So I want to get like these last 5 minutes in before I end the podcast or before I like, okay, you're back for a second.
No, we can just try. Just interrupt me if it cuts out again, and we can just try. You might have to do some editing.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not that big a deal. I got you back for the second. Okay. I'll just ask this. I'll ask this as like kind of the last question is like, so it sounds like you were answering this, I think, but how do you feel like, how would you build a big YouTube following? I know that's not your intention. Your intention more is to like get it on the email list and stuff, but you have something like 220,000 subscribers. Like, is it just keep putting out content over and over again, you think, and like have it intentionally there? Or like, what do you think it is?
You cut out a second. Say that again, the question.
So why, like, you have a huge YouTube following. What do you think makes you different than other people? Like, what are you doing differently, you think?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, as you know, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, as you know, and anybody else, YouTube is an extremely difficult platform to be successful on.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think I don't really know other than I think that people really appreciate that I'm really active in the business and I show the nuts and bolts of what I'm doing, and how I do it, and what works. I do a lot of watch me type of things. I think people really like that. And I really put into the content. People don't realize how much I put into every video.
Right.
Like it's not just, hey, turn the camera on and I'm just gonna, talk for a minute. No, I really plan what I'm gonna share. So
I gotcha.
Most people aren't willing to put in the work that I've put in to build a channel.
Gotcha. So then, and what makes you, and is it, again, like, it sounds like it might all just relate to going back to the mentorship and the email list, but what like motivates you to put in so much work into your YouTube channel?
Well, yeah, I mean, it allows me to, people then join my programs. They sign up for my software Flipster. They join my Finder program, and now they're bringing me deals. They do my mentor program. They come out here to Puerto Rico. So yeah, it really feeds into my training business. And it forces me to really stay relevant. That's the biggest thing that I love about it is I'm on top of what's working because I have to be. Like, that's my job. If I'm an educator, I better be on top of the market. I better be keeping my skills sharp. So it prevents me from coasting or taking it easy and so it's all around been amazing for my real estate business.
I love it. Cool, man. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. The last question I always ask people, just in general, at the very end of the podcast is like, if you could go back, like, let's go back to Jerry Norton. He's digging ditches. He's not happy with like what's happening there. Like, he's just starting to learn about real estate investing. What would be like the one, maybe two things you would tell yourself back then, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, great question. So my journey from low income and wholesaling to luxury has been a almost 20-year journey.
Right.
So my first $1 million profit deal was only a few years ago, and I've done a bunch more since, and I'm kind of now, that feels normal now.
Okay.
But I would probably push myself out of my comfort zone a little faster than I did. I really took it really slow. And I think that's reassuring to people as well as like a push, because so many people kind of see the level that I operate and they think, man, that I could never do that. Or they think, but really it's like, guys, it took me 20 years. So be patient with yourself. It's okay. Just keep working on your growth, but push yourself out of wherever you feel comfortable. Always be pushing yourself out of that comfort zone. And today now being uncomfortable is my comfortable. Like, if I'm not uncomfortable in my business, I know I'm not growing. I know I'm not growing, and I want to grow. I want to develop. So I'm constantly trying to get myself slightly outside of my comfort zone where I know that I'll keep developing and growing.
I love that. That's a great quote. Like, I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. That's a good one. I'm gonna keep on to that. Okay, last question is, what are some of your favorite books that you recommend to people?
My all-time favorite book that I read twice a year and I have for a long time is Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
I read that one.
T. Harv Eker. That book very transformational in my journey. It really talks about how money is a mindset and how you have to change from these mindsets you developed usually in your adolescence that now are keeping you from having a wealth mindset. And there's 20 of them. He outlines them in the book. He shows you how to recognize them, how to change them. And so I really had to work on those. I had a lot of those really negative mindsets. Even though I was working hard and trying, I was self-sabotaging. And that's what most people do. I believe this business is 80% mindset, 20% skill set. And so most people want the skill and they don't want to work on the mindset. And that's really where the majority of your success is going to come from.
I 100% agree. I feel like it's almost with anything. Like I'm like, if you do that, I don't think it's, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't see it, but I feel like if you're honestly trying at real estate every single day for at least 6 months, like I don't know anyone who honestly tried every single day for 6 months and didn't get a deal. Maybe I don't hear about them, but it seems almost impossible. It always seems like people who like don't really try or only try for like a month or so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I tell people if you make 100 offers, you will get a deal. Someone's going to say yes. The problem is most people don't make offers, and so then they say they're working on it. And if someone says to me, "I've been working for 6 months and I haven't got a deal," I don't believe them. I'm gonna ask them, "How many offers are you making?" Well, I made one last week. I made one this week. No, make 5 a day. Do 100 a month and you'll get a deal.
Right. No, I love it. So, all right, man, I don't know if anybody on my stream doesn't know who you are, but just in case, like, where should they go? Should they follow you on Instagram, YouTube? Like where do you want them?
Yeah. I'm on all the platforms, but yeah, Instagram it's just Flipping Mastery. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. I try to be really active in the comments on YouTube as well.
Okay. And then, so should it be, like, what do they just look up your name everywhere, right? Just Jerry Norton?
Well, on Facebook and Instagram, it's just Flipping Mastery. So at Flipping Mastery. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool, man. All right. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on. It means a lot. Guys, next week we got Mamadou on. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a sub-2 student. It's going to be dope. I also got to find out what episode I'm on. I stopped doing that. I've just done it where it says the name of the person now. But next week will be Mamadou, guys. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, subscribe. I respond to everybody in the comment section. So tell me what you thought of this. Tell me what you learned. I want to know about it. And I will see y'all next week.